are the only team to beat this composition yesterday. Could they have come in a little overconfident, gone against it anyway? They are going to ban the Batiste anyway, though. So obviously not feeling overconfidence off their game yesterday against Gangstars.
Yeah, so Hammers probably will pick the Kestrel, but they may opt for the Vox because Catherine is decent into Kestrel. So they may just take, instead they're going to actually go what we originally talked about is he's going to secure that Kestrel. Now that leaves open Vox for Rogue and CP Blackfeather here.
Alright, well, we'll see which ones they are going to opt for. The Kestrel, definitely something that certain players love to prioritize, but Kestrel definitely seems like one of these picks where you either love it or you hate it. Certain teams will pick it up all the time, but then other teams never touch it.
And the reason why Kestrel is good into Lyra is because Lyra is not really a good front line. Kestrel can just throw arrows in front of Lyra and get her low. However, Lyra does have that Imperial Sigil that can heal up her allies, and Lyra will need to build a Metal Jacket against the Kestrel because that cap stun with the Kestrel burst can just delete her. So Rogue is going to go ahead with the CP Blackfeather. It's a really good pick because he can ult through. His Rose Offensive can block a stun and any debuffs. Get onto that Kestrel, poke her with his on point once level 8, has a range of 9, so outranges the weapon Kestrel. And then with the Vox, they can just focus on diving in. But they may even opt for Gwen, because Gwen can get out of a cat stun, can review the Kestrel. So Gwen would be a really, really solid pick here for Rogue over Vox, I would say. So let's see if Hammy plays Gwen. I've never seen him on a Gwen. Is he comfortable with Gwen? So let's see if that's going to show up for Rogue. If they do pick her, that's good. So actually, he's going to stay with Comfort Pick and go on that Vox here.
Surprising to see Vox get so far through the draft. It's usually right? Within the first like so 2 or 3 picks.
So much has changed with the meta. It's crazy.
All right, so now Hammers, their final pick. It's obviously going to be, or not necessarily obviously, but very likely to be their jungle pick here. I would like to see them get something that's a little bit beefier. There's have that double sort of front line to protect the Kestrel and just
Probably
let Kestrel
Samuel.
do so much damage from the backside of these fights. Samuel would make sense. So would, maybe they could go for a Scarf, though that's not really the front liner. It's going to be the Samuel coming through. That's a lot of durability during team fights that I really like to see. And obviously we've seen Archaic now play this a couple of times and play it very well.
All right, well, we have our compositions locked in. Feels like a very long-range, poke-heavy game right here. Obviously, we do have the Vox, who has significantly shorter range than the others, but still a ranged hero nonetheless. How do we anticipate this early game going? Is either team going to have to be on the front foot here, Suijay?
Yeah, early game, Lyra's going to win. Blackfeather is a little weaker. Samuel is not that strong with Cath. So early game, it's going to be slightly too Rogue, but if they get to late game, then Hammers will win because of Catherine.
There's also the fact that early on, there's no sustain in the lane for the side of Hammers. So Rogue really need to try and abuse that fact, try and make frequent moves up to the lane, and try and get starting all over shut down early.
All right, well, we'll see if they can shut down starting all over. It's time to start our semi-finals, though, and get on into this one. Let us know who you at home are going to be supporting in this first semi-final of the day using that hashtag Vainglory8 on Twitter. But without further ado, let's jump on into this one, onto the Halcyon Fold for Hollywood Hammers up against Rogue.
Thank you very much, guys. Here we are at Scoundrel. We're in the semi-finals right now, and we got Stormy Cross on this Blackfeather. Rogue looking hella strong, but can starting all over take over this game?
Well, he's definitely on something that can snowball very, very easily. Weapon Power Kestrel can hit very hard if given the opportunity to get those Weapon Power spikes as quickly as possible. Archaic will make up for some potential early game lacking with the Catherine, because he's a very, very strong early game jungler in the form of Samuel. But you don't imagine that Playboy Afro is going to be looking for too many aggressive moves. You'll imagine this will be fairly safe, then they'll try and play this as passively as physically possible. Hammy's going to take a stun to start with, and that's the stacks beginning already for Playboy.
Oh boy, can't wait to see that Catherine unkillable by both Hammy and Stormy Cross. Both junglers being very passive. This is completely the opposite of what we saw yesterday. Most junglers, or most people on the blue side, were actually just invading red side's front camps, taking away that healing treant and then rotating down. But Archaic and Stormy Cross quite happy just to solo out there both their jungles. Stormy Cross a little bit quicker on the rotation, you've got to imagine now, with Playboy Afro now coming down to help Archaic.
Yeah, he's got level 2, so that's a small spike for the Blackfeather. You can build those Heartbreak stacks. Wait a second.
Hang on a second, on point. It's going to do a fair bit of damage. Dashes straight towards him. One more basic attack will finish him off, but the boots come out from Playboy Afro to save his life. Archaic onto the sidelines here. Did ding level 2 earlier, of course. Is now going to wrap around now, maybe find something onto Hammy. But that's going to be about it. I mean, forcing Playboy Afro back early on is going to lead to a little bit of CS advantage here for Stormy Cross.
But actually, if you check out Archaic, he's made a very intelligent move over to the back camps of Stormy Cross. So really, nothing particularly lost for Archaic here, and he will just be able to back off after taking these. Would like to see him recall, but he looks like he's going to stay around. No, he's not going to stick around. He's going to recall here. Maybe wait for the forward treant to reappear. That might be his plan. Yeah, there we go.
Take that one away. No problemo. And now Hollywood Hammers. They are just maybe making to look a play onto Hammy fairly early on. You said starting all over, he's going to get to that carry potential, that carry state when he gets a few items online. But where do Rogue really want to fight around?
I mean, Rogue, I think, are going to want to at least get Poison Shiv on Hammy. Stormy Cross is going to get level 8. That'll give him a major power spike. I actually don't know which of these are technically better in the late game, because Vox scales pretty nicely. You'd say in terms of raw damage output, especially immediate damage output, the composition from Hollywood Hammers is better. But if you can negate most of that, if you get into sustained fights, I would almost argue that Rogue have the better sustained fight composition, especially with the amount of healing they've got coming down. So if they can kind of avoid the majority of the Malice and Verdict hits with the Samuel, try and find an engage between the Drifting Darks, you would imagine that Rogue have a potential upper hand here. Starting all over will want to hit, a couple of items. He's actually picking up a crystal bit. Super interesting. Maybe just adding to the splash damage for the Kestrel, giving her that extra range to pressure with Archaic, especially when they're trying to siege that tier 1 turret. Just taking a crystal bit might allow him to get the extra little bit of damage to blow someone up off the back of a push by the Samuel.
Maybe so. True hybrid building coming in Scoundrel, maybe?
No, maybe, but no.
It's never going to come true. Stormy has found Archaic, though. Evil's going to be here with the Sigil to speed himself up. Drifting Dark comes through. That healing camp will go over to Stormy in the end, but takes a fair bit of damage and punishment for it. Playboy Afro a little late on the rotation there. Didn't manage to find anything, and now Evil just checking out in this brush. Whole of Hollywood has actually rotating down at the moment, but I'm not sure they can actually find anything, with Stormy Cross being very mobile, and same with Evil.
Let's not forget that the CP Blackfeather is what Stormy Cross essentially destroyed TSM with. This is something that he performed very well on yesterday, so it'd be, almost surprising to see him do poorly on it versus Hammers, who have also looked pretty darn good themselves. Stormy Cross is getting pressured out early. This is the part of the game where the CP Blackfeather will struggle against the Samuel. He doesn't have the range on that on point to be able to contest. So he'll want to try and power farm as quickly as physically possible to 8, which is why you can see him now going straight to the back, despite taking a lot of damage here. Doesn't want to back because he knows it is very important to make really efficient use of his time. Just stack the XP. Yes, okay, he is kind of giving up a little bit of pressure on that tier 1 turret, and Hollywood Hammers look like they're trying to push that as much as possible. But you do have a Lyra and a Vox who, worst comes to worst, Sigil and the Resonance bounces can clear waves fairly quickly.
Yeah, that it can. Stormy Cross a little ahead now of Archaic in terms of CS and XP, like you were saying, wants to rush that level 8. What's going to be the first item? Because the first item, if I recall, yesterday was actually Shatterglass, which makes a lot of sense if he wants to go for this heavy poke. And you've got to say, toppling TSM, one of the biggest titans of North America, is no mean feat. And Rogue just handily gave them the loss yesterday. It was very close, but Stormy Cross really came up big. I want to see if he can do the same thing this time, because he's starting off good, and I can imagine it's only going to get better.
Yeah, Shatterglass is the standard first item for CP Blackfeathers. You just get a lot of damage with the high scaling on the on point. And obviously your basic attacks when you apply those Heartthrob stacks also are going to scale up nicely too, because the extra bit of damage coming up from the Shatterglass is good in that respect also. So it's just generally the standard first item for CP Blackfeather. Then he goes into a Broken Myth, because you're already going to slow from on point. So the only thing that you're actually going to be landing realistically that deals CP damage is your on point. So you already get a slow from that. It's a decaying slow, but it is a slow nonetheless. So therefore Frostburn not actually needed as much, because you have that built into your kit regardless. The Siege is so good from Hollywood Hammers because the Samuel and the Kestrel, they've got incredible power to walk up to a turret and just land those abilities on it. And those abilities will start to chunk heavy. And this is the portion of the game that you want to punish for Hollywood Hammers. You have a late game scaling Catherine, but you have in clear advantage in terms of range in lane and pressure onto turrets. As soon as Stormy Cross gets to level 8, that begins a little bit nullified, just a little bit nullified.
Only a little bit, and now Rogue trying to push onto this turret. Stormy Cross has got the poke potential. Can't really make anything work from it. And now Rogue are just going to rotate and down towards that item shop now. Infusion actually picked up really early for Hammy there. He's actually going to pop that one as well. He does, yeah, starting all over does have one in his infantry too, as well as that Sorrow Blade, so he's at a nice little power spike as well. Stormycross did pick up the Shadow Glass, so full items all around at the moment, with Hammy picking up that Poison Shift 2 a little bit earlier. And now Rogue with Stormycross level 7. It's not quite that level 8, like you said, but maybe you want to try something here. But an evolution, of items and itemization in the early game that we've seen throughout, I think, the VG8 recently is this minion candy. We see Playboy Afro picking one up just now.
I feel like this is something that's happened in Vainglory meta so much, and I think minion candy makes a lot of sense for Hollywood Hammers, specifically because if you can get your minions just that much more beefy, it does mean you're going to get more. Whoa, that's an engage.
Whoa, that's a big passageway. That's a big bulwark as well. Playboy Afro in the front line, soaking majority of the damage. Speaking of soaking damage, Hammy has to get saved by the fountain there. Stormycross couldn't really find an entrance into that fight. Playboy Afro still fairly low, however. Does force starting all over to come back, to go back there. So Rogue are in a 2v3 for the time being. They're going to get flared out, however. The minions are going to meet them as well. So nice engagement from Evo. As soon as he did that level 6, passageway came out, bright bulwark, tried to make something happen.
Yeah, and I think that was really good because I think the minion candy coming down was going to allow Hollywood Hammers some time to put onto the turret. The reason you buy a minion candy for the Catherine here is that you have this kind of composition that if you get enough time with your minions onto turret, you reduce that shield because the minions are in range, you should be able to take turret. So what's going to happen is the minion candy is going to buy just that little bit extra time for them to siege onto the first turret and potentially take it. That's why you can see Playboy's picked up yet another minion candy here because the lane shove is just so important to Hollywood Hammers.
Finds the stun to Hammy as well. He's taking a fair bit of damage. In fact, Drifting Dart doing a fair bit as well. Starting all over, sends out the one-shot, one-kill, goes a little bit wide. Last Tremor did silence 3 members of Rogue there to stop Stormycroft's advances. Starting all over now, he has got not a lot of HP left, so you can imagine Rogue are going to just clear this wave out, but a minion candy, like you were saying, beefing up those minions, just making them a little bit harder to kill, is providing quite a bit of defense here for Hammers.
Yeah, and obviously this is the point in the game where level 8 has come out for Stormycross now. That range advantage that Hollywood Hammers once had has been slightly nullified. The mid-game from Rogue is very strong, and that's where I think Hollywood Hammers are going to have to be careful. They had a pretty strong early game with the Samuel. They had the better siege pre-level 8, which they didn't manage to exploit. Whoa, Stormy
takes a lot of damage, yeah. Merciless Pursuit did end up stunning him up. However, Hammy kiting back very, very well, starting all over, sending out another couple of glimmer shots, but can't quite find his mark. Stormycross is going to have to maybe look to back here. He's very low, and that turret will probably end up falling here. Nice stun onto Evo. He's taking a fair bit. Hammy's going to have to back off as well. Passageway used defensively. One shot, one kill finds him, but doesn't end up finishing him off. Hammy, though, did manage to secure first blood. It did go on to Playboy Afro, but that turret will fall, and Hammers will take credit for it.
Yes, but they are going to get a good siege back onto the first tier turret of the Hollywood Hammers. So by taking out that Catherine, you've got rid of the use of that fountain, didn't even use the war treads either. So now Rogue have a serious advantage when it comes to trying to take on this and get it down. It looks like it's going to be the case.
That looming Drifting Dart coming through. Hammy's going to get erased here. Stormycross trying to make his way out as well, but I think he's just going to fall. He does, starting all over with the double kill. War treads are popped here. Evo might be in a lot of trouble. Hasn't got too much energy left. Starting all over, almost goes down. Fountain heals him up, and Archaic is going to chase him. And they're going to send it back to base. There comes the ace, Hollywood Hammers. They end up turning that one around quite nicely. And there comes the gold miner for a reward.
I genuinely think that if Rogue had been more ambitious in that fight, they could have turned it on its head. It was a 2 versus 3 situation. As long as they just committed to dealing with starting all over, who was static casting glimmer shots, I think Stormy and Hammy could have dived onto him pretty quickly. They didn't have the fountain there, for instance, from the Catherine. There was no saving them. It's a very squishy starting all over at this point in time. I think that they were a little bit too scared. I think they could have just dove onto starting, used the sigil to try and keep Hammy alive as long as possible, and they actually could have turned it on its head. But the way they played it, yes, they got the turret, but they gifted over a big gold mine. And it was double, I think it was a double infusion as well for Archaic and starting, and it doesn't look like either Hammy or Stormycross had invested in one at that point. So starting all over and Archaic had infusions for that little engage, and it worked out really well for them. I think starting bought one specifically for that scenario.
He is stacking up quite nicely in terms of items as well. Working towards his second monocle. Did pick his one up after that first engagement. Gold miner went over to them as well, so that gold lead is stretching in their favour, but only about 1,000 right now. We are 11 minutes in, and Rogue's mid-game, like you mentioned, is very, very strong. But right now, Hammy is sitting on 2 items. We do have the Shatter Glass and a little bit of Pierce as well for Stormycross. But the problem is they just can't seem to find the fights, and it's really starting all over show. All over again, it feels like Scoundrel. This guy really comes up big and when the situations matter.
If I'm honest, that is kind of Hollywood Hammers, and it has been when starting's been on any roster. It went, oh wait, there's whoa.
Oh, passageway. Hang on a second. They're trying to buy some massive blast tremor silences. All three members of Rogue completely denying them of absolutely anything. They're going to get wiped. That was very easy and very clean from Hammers. They take the ace, and they're just going to take another turret.
I don't think you need to do that as Rogue right now. You don't want to dive straight into a situation where the ultimate comes down from Catherine and silences you. Evil didn't have the opportunity. He needed to crucible that Catherine silence to give them the opportunity to use the fountain, to give them the opportunity to continue in that fight. They barreled in. I don't really think they had a clear plan of what they were aiming to do. Stormy Cross has got a decent range now. He's got a good ability to poke down these squishy targets. They don't need to make those kind of back plays unless they feel like they are getting poked out. That wasn't even getting poked out. They just committed to a fight that I don't think they really had a plan for. Again, you know, if you jump into a fight like that directly on a Catherine where she makes it so easy for her to land a 3-man ultimate, you better be damn sure that you're going to crucible it.
She even picked up a null wave as well to make sure they're extra quiet.
I think that might have been a null wave actually. Is that null wave just been picked up or was it there for that fight? I didn't notice.
I think it just got picked up. I did see the blast tremor animation come out. I think that's what actually silenced up Rogue at that point. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
I mean, he might have got item silenced immediately when he portaled over, which allowed him to then get a free blast tremor off. I didn't actually see whether he had that for the last fight, which is my mistake. But again, 2 scenarios. Didn't crucible it, but he might have been able to crucible it. If he didn't get null wave gauntlet, but if he did have the null wave gauntlet at that point, then obviously that's going to be tough because you need your own reflex block when the null wave gauntlet comes out. And it looks like that's what Evo's going for right now. That or the war treads.
Oh, Hammers, they've really taken the game by the reins. It's already now. Oh, wait for it. Almost actually stole that gold miner, but they do end up securing it. Another 186 gold payout for them. We're 3 minutes ago, there was only 1,000 gold lead. There was only 3-1, and now Hollywood Hammers once again finding another race. They've cracked the base even of Rogue. This is not the same Rogue we saw yesterday.
Oh, it's not indeed. I mean, it looks like Hammers have just tipped this right on its head. Playboy Afro, I mean, Catherine is just so strong at this point in time. I think EU seems to have the right idea. You just ban Catherine. Her disruption in team fights, especially if you place her ultimate so well, you know, especially if you're casting it from a brush, it's so hard to be able to block a Catherine ultimate because the way you block a Catherine ultimate is by noticing the animation where she swings her shield over her head. If you're doing that from a brush where you don't have vision, it's almost impossible to block. Rogue need to play this a little bit slower. Just wait until they've used Drifting Dark, for instance, and then try and find something.
Oh, Starting All Over has to pot the boost. There comes the Blast Tremor once again, but Starting All Over has found himself a Stormy Cross. He will end up doing a fair bit of damage. That wait for it as well is going to come out, but Hollywood Hammers were rather disengaged when that did actually happen. Starting All Over almost fell there, but Playboy Afro came up really big. No wave straight into the Blast Tremor. Just silenced everybody member of Rogue, and that was really about it. That's going to be the team fights I can imagine for the next 10 minutes.
Yeah, but that's kind of what Catherine does. Maybe you see Playboy work towards an Atlas Pauldrons for Hammy, and then he might end up getting an Echo after that. I still have always prefer the Echo over the Null Wave Gauntlet, I feel, but they're going to go for a fight.
They're going to go for a little fight. Hammy does get stunned up, but Playboy Afro can't make anything of this. Has got Null Wave, but no Tremor to be had by him at the moment. Now Hollywood Hammers, they are marching and advancing down this lane. It's all falling apart here for Rogue. They need to be able to secure at least some of their jungle as well for this farm. The fronts are being taken away by Hammers. The 15 minutes are up. The Kraken has spawned, and that will mean an added layer of pressure here for Rogue.
Yeah, and also they don't really have much vision control, so Hollywood Hammers have the perfect bait scenario where they can bring the Rogue lineup towards this Tri-Brush. They have the opportunity then to use the Drifting Dark to get a good engage, followed up by the Blast Tremor as well. They have the entire advantage at this point in time, and it feels very difficult, but you can see the offensive Scout Trap vision coming down, meaning that even if they step within range of that brush, Hollywood Hammers can pull the trigger. They are going to start this up. It's going down so quickly because of this build that Starting All Over's gone. Rogue might be too late.
It might just be, wait for it, does come out, doesn't quite steal it. One shot, one kill, secures it. Hollywood Hammers, they get the Kraken. Will they be able to get anything more with it? Eve of Harvest has just been picked up from Archaic as well. He's going to be healing a fair bit as well in these fights. Now, Rogue, they are very much on the back foot. What can they do to come back into this one? Lord only knows at this point, Scoundrel. Let's not lie to ourselves. Stormy Cross just hasn't had an impact. He's died twice. Hasn't found any meaningful damage on Archaic, only found a little bit on Starting All Over, then got completely denied the rest of the fights he's been in.
Yeah, I mean, this is a completely different performance. I don't know whether he stepped up to the plate for TSM, But he's not having the same success today, especially on a pick that he performed so well on. But the range advantage is kind of with, like we said, it's always going to be with Hollywood Hammers. You have a good range on your on point, but Hammy is going to get outranged, and obviously Evolve for the most part is going to get outranged on these two particular members. So you either have to try and weather these drifting dark storms, then find the perfect opportunity to find a sustained fight. Oh, wait a second. This is just almost game over right now. For
Yeah,
me.
I think it might be. Hammy takes a boatload of damage. That Kraken will find that turret, but the passageway and the bright bulwark is there for Evo. Oblivion comes out big, and Stormy's just slept up, and he gets taken out. Starting all over takes the kill, and I think you're right, Xcander. I think this might just be it. The turret is going to get destroyed. They're just going to focus that crystal, and game number 1 will go over to Hollywood Hammers, taking that one by storm. And where are Rogue? This is not the team we saw play TSM yesterday.
Maybe Rogue just had a freak performance yesterday. I still think they're an incredibly good team, but against, Hollywood Hammers is starting all over, especially. They just didn't seem to function at the same level that they did versus TSM. I think one of the major team fights that really almost put Rogue so far behind was when they took that first tier turret from Hollywood Hammers. They then didn't commit to a 2 versus 3. They looked a little bit lost and split, and Hollywood Hammers took that, got the gold mine, and snowballed from there.
Well, that